Chris Williams here. Can't wait to jump in our live Q&A today. We have a lot of good questions that are already in the deck, and I'll go through those one at a time. If you're live and jumping on here, I'm going to keep chilling for just like 2 more minutes until we're actually at 12 o'clock Central, because I told everybody I'd start at 12 o'clock Central, but just want to say hey, and then we'll dive into the questions. You can pop them there live. If I can figure it out, I think I can jump in there and actually, what's up, Robert? Great to see you, man. Robert, killer question you dropped in there yesterday, and I will answer that here in a minute. If you want to jump on this Facebook Live with me, anybody who's in the live and wants to jump on and ping back and forth about your question so we can get even more clarity, totally willing to do that. Cool. You say sounds good. Awesome. Let's do this. I'm going to just go ahead and see if I can, while we're waiting, I'm not starting this thing till exactly 12 o'clock. I can see if I can invite you to the party. Man, I don't know how to get you on the screen here. Let's see. That's not it. If you know how to get yourself on the screen, let me know. I don't mind sharing the camera space with you. I'd love to. How do I do that? Event logos. Let's see. Invite friends. That's not it. If you know how to get yourself on the screen, you're more than happy to join. We'll start here in just a second. And we'll figure it out. Judge on me later. Oh yeah, judge on me either. Got it. Well, we'll get the questions done. And if I'm not answering your question, nailing it right away, just keep firing off comments and getting clarity. We'll make that work super easy. Maybe next time we can do a live Q&A. People can jump in. We could do it on Zoom or something like that. I think I can stream Zoom over. Okay, well, it's 12 o'clock, so let's do this, folks. Welcome to the live Q&A. This is where we get to just fire off any questions you've got about growing, scaling, systemizing, staffing your agency. I have 4 agencies so far. I'm on my 4th. The first one was kind of mediocre. This is creative agencies. First one's kind of mediocre. We did fine, made money. But then I started hiring coaches to deal with lead generation and the pathway to growth and closing and sales. And then my agency started scaling dramatically, like had my first $10,000 month and my first $25,000 month and my first $50,000 month, and it's scaled since then. So that's been really big. And then as I got into I think the 3rd agency, I was selling really well, but I wasn't able to get my time back. I was working 12, 14-hour days and just getting hammered. And so I hired another coach, came in, taught me tons of processes, then repeated that whole process again late in the 3rd agency and really figured out people and staffing and delegation and outsourcing and VAs and working people all the world. That really, really changed everything. So now I work less than 2 hours a day. We have an amazing agency. My creative agency happens to take surgeons and specialties into rural communities, high-end specialists, medical or dental, all of them specialties though, into rural communities and putting them with underserved people groups. We work in some big cities as well, but that's our niche. We're a creative agency. Everybody's a niche, right? So let's dive into questions first. Let's start with Robert's. Robert, you're hanging out here. Let's go ahead and hit that question up. Let me just pull up here my phone. That's going to be easier. So Robert works with attorneys. Robert and I talked actually earlier this week. Anybody wants to jump on a call with me one-on-one, I love to meet everybody in the group. It's really a privilege. You guys are all just fantastic. So Robert and I were talking earlier in the week, but let's dive into Robert's question. So Robert, can we discuss ideas on how to generate attorney leads for our PPC service, our pay-per-click service? For those of you who don't know, pay-per-click, it's like paid Google ads, paid Facebook ads, things like that. Some of you are in that niche, some of you aren't. So can we discuss ideas on how to generate attorney leads? So Robert's trying to attract attorneys to sell them on his pay-per-click service. Make sure I'm getting that right, Robert. Also would like to know what's the best way to set up a case study and convey it in a way that will convince other lawyers to onboard. I have some really good results with my existing attorneys. I want to put that info into a format that's awesome for us to see. Yes, love this question. Let's take this one at a time. So the pay-per-click thing and how to sell it, how to generate attorney leads for our pay-per-click service. Isn't it interesting, by the way, as a side note, that as creative agency owners, I struggle with this. I'm so good at selling my clients, or even I can see your product or service or situation, be like, oh, that's how you sell it. It's so hard to do that on our own. I don't know what it is. It's like a wall in front of most agency owners and selling our own stuff. So let's talk about generating leads for the lawyers. I was in finance and did a lot of work with legal folks and attorneys for years in another agency, and I've actually targeted some of that market in another agency we ran as well, and it's super doable. So targeting that professional level person, they're not like us. They think very structured, very focused thoughts. They're not creative or intuitive. They might be in a legal structure or a deal. What's up, man? Hey, great to see you. Glad you're here. We're just doing Q&A. Fire one off if you have one. So with the lawyers and attorney world, they're so structured and focused and in their boxes, thinking in documents and in spreadsheets all day. Yet they still make emotional decisions. But ultimately, they need a very linear connection, at least in my experience when we've reached out to folks in that type genre, a very linear connection from the ad, let me say this differently, from the lead they want to get, the attorney client they want to get, the person who's looking for an attorney. They know the value of that client. They know that if it's a family attorney need, if it's divorce attorney, if it's a business attorney, whatever the need that client has for a certain type of attorney, they know that that is worth this much money on average over the lifespan of that client. All right. So they've got to get from that price tag to a cost that they're willing to put up with or give up or suffer to get it. So if they've got a client who's going to be a $10,000 client or a $1,000 client or a $100,000 client, there's a cost they're willing to pay to get a $1,000 client, let's say. Is it $50? Is it $100? I'm not just talking pay-per-click. I'm talking having you engaged in managing the process and going on and on through the work that you have to do to help them. So what is your management cost? What's the cost of the clicks? How many clicks we have to go through before we can actually get enough leads that come in? Then how many leads close? Then once they're closed, how many of them actually stick on the retainer with the attorney and become that long-term client? That's, to jump to the second question for a minute, that's actually the case study that we present to folks in those really analytical niches that we go after sometimes, is a very direct, again, we work a lot with surgeons and high-end medical specialists. So it's a very structured and logical and scientific process that their brains live in day out. So number one is we're putting a very clear map with numbers on paper, not guarantees, but on average, here's our experience kind of numbers on paper that show them we're going from a closed client, we're backing that set up, and you can see, in our case, a closed patient, in the attorney's case, a closed client, you can see the money tracking back. Here's how many clicks it takes. Here's how much those clicks cost. Here's how much the creative cost. Here's how much the copy cost. Here's how much it costs to just nail down and figure out and really hone in the messaging and the copy and the culture that your business or personal or whatever client is actually involved in. That's the stuff that we're doing to make sure that they understand the whole process. They don't want to get bogged down into like showing, they hate being shown a screen with the Google algorithms and the Facebook business manager. They don't want to see that stuff, but they do, the ads manager, they do want to see on a one sheet piece of paper, here's the flow, so they can understand the process. So when we're building a case study, we're actually building that out and we're showing them real cases with real numbers so they can see real results. That's step one. Closing the attorney, though, is actually an emotional process. So yeah, it's logical. The logic busts down some walls and puts some things out there so that they get the information they need so they can actually close it in their own head, and they can take the information back to their other partners and their board and their staff people and actually justify spending $500, $1,000, $1,500, $5,000, $10,000, whatever it is on ads. And in addition to that, your management fees. That's what they have to have the logic for, to convince themselves and to convince the people that are around them so they don't look like idiots if it's, not quite working for a month and it takes a couple months to ramp up, whatever. The emotion, though, is helping them understand the place they're currently at, the frustration they have with getting new clients and understanding their market and really reaching out to that person with a need. Their frustration as an attorney to say, hey, we can help you through that. You don't need to feel that frustration anymore. You don't need to be stuck where you're at. You don't need to be here 6 months, 3 months, 12 months from now in the same spot you were in the past 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, and can't move on through this section of your life. Your practice is valuable. Your service is valuable. Let us go ahead and do this. We're not good attorneys. We are good at attracting people to attorneys. Let us make that change for you. How does it feel? How would you feel if you were still in the same spot a year from now? Those common closing questions that we've all heard and honestly a little sick of, and I don't want to be cheesy or trite about that, but those really emotionally based questions that help someone connect with what's really going on in their heart. They know that you can do what you can do. You got the case studies, you got testimonials, you've got real life results. You're not a mystery. You're a science. You have a functional machine that works a certain way. They need to feel like they're making the right decision. So even attorneys feel it. So I hope that answers that question a little bit, Robert. I just want to read it again. Can we discuss ideas on how to generate attorney leads for PPC service? Let's be a little more specific about that. The case study I think I just addressed. How to generate leads. Yeah, so I love going back through any lead success that we're having. We actually document every single client opportunity we get, and we backtrack that in detail. I actually keep records of every client interaction I have as I'm having them. And if you haven't done that in the past, do it now. Go back, remember as much as you can. Why did they make the decision? Why did that attorney choose you? Where did they get referred from? Where did they find you? Did they find an ad? Did they find your Facebook page? Did they find you on LinkedIn? What's the pattern? Not just like, oh, it was LinkedIn versus Facebook. We'll do LinkedIn. But no, what was the conversation? Why did they reach out to you? What was going on in the news when they reached out to you? Was there something that caught their attention? We understand all of that. We track all of that. We document it all in spreadsheets because we want to know. And all of our clients, we push them to do that as well. Even our medical practices have to do that. Where did the patient come from? All the way through. We want to know what made that decision happen because we want to replicate that process. We have a good service, you do too, and we want to make sure you can replicate that buying cycle that goes on with clients over and over and over and turn that into a science. So with professional attorneys, I would start, if you're not already generating those leads, I would start with referrals immediately. Now there's really strong referral Timer just froze. Can you all still hear me okay? All right, I think I just froze up for a second, but I think I'm back. That just makes sure that the referrals come in predictably. We go to existing clients and we ask for very structured, intentional referrals, and we're very focused about the kinds of referrals. So in your case, the exact attorney type of client, we like working with other attorneys that are like this, who fit a profile like you, to explain the profile to your client. Here's who you are. You might not realize this, but here's who you are. Here's what makes you great. Here's what makes our service able to succeed for you. Without that connection, the money you're paying us would be wasted. And we want to make sure we actually address that and that we can do that more and more and get better and better at what we're doing. So we're only looking for new clients who are just like you. Do you know any other attorneys? Anybody that comes to mind that's just like you, that has a practice this size, that's in this type of legal work, that's got a staff this size, whatever it is that makes them unique? They will think of people. And if they're good referrals and you've got good results, they'll think of people. And usually we get 3 to 5 referrals every time we have that conversation that are really absolutely on point, on target. And we close a third of those. That's our closing ratio. Our cases are large cases. We're really good at generating large case fees. We can get into that another day on how to get your profit margins up and how to price that up. But we do good work, we charge the right amount, and we get it done. And we actually get to close about 30% of the referrals we get into new clients. And that's what I would do for attorneys first. I would do that first in that attorney market, on the phone, on Zoom calls, face-to-face, whatever they are in the world. And then I would take that process and the things you've learned, and then we turn that into marketing. So we turn that into the copy, the more success stories, the messaging, the things that are on ads, the images. We learn from that process, and that's how we generate leads in those professional markets. That was a long answer. Everybody else patient, waiting on your question. Robert, I can go deeper into that. Let me know in the comments if I have missed anything there, all right? I'm still looking. I think I'm live on the comments. Okay, cool. All right. Carl, question here from Carl. Be interesting to hear about, Robert, thank you. You're welcome, dude. So glad. Again, let me know if you need any clarification. Carl says he'd be interested to hear about hybrid agencies. Example, one-to-many training versus retainer deals. So Carl, I would love a little more clarification, but I think I got this one. I just want to make sure I'm reading you right. The hybrid meaning one-to-many training. So if it's a training course, is anybody, if you're watching right now, Robert, like for you, for instance, am I coming through clear? Audio's okay, video's okay. It's a little skippy on my side just to make sure I'm not leaving anybody hanging. All right, so perfect. Thank you. All right, so one-to-many training. What's up, Brock? Good to see you, man. Dude, super excited. Okay. One-to-many training, a hybrid versus retainer deal. So one-to-many training is like if you have a course, if you have a mastermind, if you have a coaching program that allows group coaching, this is one-to-many training. That's a good example of that. Versus a retainer deal where someone's paying you one at a time deal. So you're actually doing a done for you service, or you're advising them one at a time and they have you on a retainer. That could be for the project, or it could be a monthly retainer. Our agency's done all versions of that. So interesting to hear about hybrid agencies, the people who are doing one-to-many versus retainer deals. I'm a huge fan of a hybrid agency. I think it's so important that you know your niche and we nail that down and track and figure out who are you going to sell to based on your skill and your ability and your passion. So are you actually good at and can you enjoy doing the work, right, for that kind of person? Then is the person that you want to work with actually have a need for what you provide, and can they pay for it? Three things: your skill, ability, and passion. That's one category, right? These little circles that we can overlap, right? So we have that. Then we're also going to have the person, do they actually need what you've got going? They have a need, this burning desire for that, and do they actually have the ability to pay for that? That little spot in the middle where those three circles overlap, that's the sweet spot. Hone in on that, pick your niche, do your thing. You don't have to have a niche for 10 years. Just pick one out that you like now, start making it hyper profitable, get your hours, your structures, everything in control, and then you can do something else. All right, you can grow from there. But first of all, get that niche. You can be a hybrid agency with some one-to-many type products, courses, masterminds, coaching programs, whatever, and done for you services that are on retainer, or a hybrid of that even, where you're on retainer in a coaching. Like for instance, our agency, we do an enormous amount of work for our clients up front, all done for you. And then we actually try to teach the clients that we have the systems and the processes. Again, we work with a lot of surgeons and high-end specialties in medical and dental. We actually try to teach someone on their staff how to run their marketing, their messaging, things like that, because we want to hand that off. I get bored working with the same thing over and over again. I want to hand that off and teach. I love teaching. So we go through a process where we do the done for you. We're on retainer, and then we're actually teaching them and moving them more and more to a one-to-many type coaching structure, and pushing them out the door, giving them their wings, letting them fly. Love that model. I think that's a great model, and it gives you lots of income sources while you're still in one niche. You're doing the work. If you can do the work, you can probably teach the work. It's not a big jump, and you may as well get paid for both. And it actually makes you sharper as a doer if you're teaching. It makes you a better teacher if you're a doer. I wouldn't hire anybody as a coach or consultant or mastermind person or whatever if they didn't also have the thing that I want. I actually have a coach right now, and this guy's amazing, but he has what I want. He's got something in his business that I want. He's coaching me on how to get it. I don't hire people who stand in front of fancy cars and houses and say they can teach me this most amazing thing. If they're making their money on selling me something, that's not what I want, unless I'm learning to sell the same exact thing they're selling. If they're actually able to do it and are still doing what I want, then I hire them to teach me. Same with your clients. When you can tell that compelling story and you're teaching them in a group setting, and you're actually able to do the done for you, and you're doing it for yourself, you're taking your own medicine, so to speak, then yeah, that's a compelling story and you've got something there. All right, if you have any other questions, pop them in this comment feed. Yes, AV is good. Thank you, Brock. Appreciate that. Thank you, Robert, for the heads up there on the comment, making sure we're doing this right. Okay, cool. Next question. This was from a direct comment to me. Hang tight. Let's pull this thing up here. It's in my messenger. I guess I should go to that real quick. Sorry, I had it on my screen a sec ago, but I've got my Facebook Live running on my screen now. Okay. International clients. How do you work with international clients with time zone differences and deliverables? This is a super good question. So my staff is actually in the U.S. We have multiple time zones in the U.S. that our staff works in, and we also have a team of folks in the Philippines who are fantastic. All of us work virtually. You're going to love this. I've literally never met any of my staff members, with the exception of one. She actually lived in Memphis where I live before she moved away. We hired her after she moved away. But other than just random chance, I would have never have actually met any of our staff members. We're all over the place. We work in different time zones. Here's how we do it. We have a project and task management suite like most folks do. And that helps us communicate in circles. So as one person's finishing up their task, they're updating that. We keep it really organized in the project and task management suite. We mention somebody else, and that gets handed off to the next person to do their part of the project. Now, the time zones sometimes work out really super cool that way, because some of us who work in the Philippines might be working on a task, and then they need to hand it off to somebody who works here in the US. And then by the time the folks in the Philippines log back into work the next day, boom, it's done. Some of our staff like to work at night. Some of our staff like to work at day. Sometimes they overlap. But when it comes to client deliverables, we're really only working, our clients are in Australia, United States, and the UK, all right, typically. So we've got multiple time zones rocking there. And it's important to do two things there. One is finding the communication time openings where you can actually communicate to your clients in windows that make sense to them. For instance, we have a group of clients who are amazing in Alaska. I live in Memphis. That's 3 hours time difference from me, right? So I don't talk to anybody in Alaska before noon my time. They're all just kind of getting their day cranking by lunchtime for me. Same with folks in Australia. I'm not working and talking with them until probably 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon here, and it's morning there the next day. So we just make sure that as we structure those client arrangements, we let them know, hey, there is this time difference, but that's never been a problem for any of our clients. Here's kind of our script. Never been a problem. And we want to make sure that as we work together, we pick times that work for you. So why don't, you're in Australia, we're in the US, why don't we lock in a weekly call where we can update on projects and tasks and all that stuff at 8, 9 a.m. your time, maybe 5 our time, 4 our time, whatever it is. We make that work. We're intentional about it up front, and we actually structure it that way. Every now and then the weekend gets weird because we don't work in the off hours. I don't want to be working at night. I don't want to be working the weekends. I don't want my staff doing that unless they choose to do it on their own structure. And that's important to let the client know that as well. Hey, come Friday evening your time in Australia, let's say, it's going to be, Friday evening their time, it'd be Friday morning our time. You could reach out and we could get something back to you. But by the time it's Saturday morning your time, if you need something, it might be kind of awkward because it's going to be Monday afternoon, evening before you get a reply from us. So just so you know, if you fire something off for us over the weekend, it's probably going to be late Monday your time before we get back to you and can reach out. And they're cool with that. It's not a big deal. It's just expectations and managing that up front. Hope that answers that question. Any other questions on that one, let me know. These are really good questions. Okay, here's another one. Hey, Chris. Let's see. How do you market or reach out to new prospects in your agency? How do you market or reach out to new prospects in your agency? Okay, there's multiple ways we do this. We've tried every imaginable way. We're, again, you've heard this in my other post, comments, videos, whatever. We are insanely structured as an agency. We absolutely believe in structure and good communication and good team orientation and culture. That's number one. So how do we reach out to new clients? I'm coming, don't worry, it fits in this. So when we're trying something new, you can already hear when I was talking about attorneys a minute ago, it's got to be structured. We have to have pathways. We don't just try things nilly-willy. We actually go after really, really intentional, structured pathways. I think in one of the Good to Great books, whatever that dude's name is, he talks about bullets versus cannonballs. Here's a good example of how this works. So Picture Pirates of the Caribbean, these big ships running around the ocean back in the 1800s. They got their sails up and they're getting in battle, so they're firing cannons at each other. And Jack Sparrow's doing his thing in the Pirates movies, right? It's all fun. But in real life, they would actually tie and strap like rifles, musket shooting rifles to the top of the cannon. So they got a cannon here, and they got this rifle sitting right on top of it. Now with the rifle, they're going to shoot little musket balls, little tiny bullets, right? Because they don't cost much. You can find out the structure of what's working and what's not working in your lead generation, your marketing, by firing off little shots and testing and testing and testing. In the old days, they would actually, let's see, in the old days, they would actually set up a musket shooter. Sorry, I got distracted there. Somebody's trying to call in on my screen. That wouldn't work out with it. In the old days, they would actually set up a little musket shooting system. So it would shoot at the other boats, and they would hear the bullet ping off that boat. They'd hear nothing because just the bullets going in the water, and then all of a sudden they hear dunk, 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 and they're hitting the boat. And when they hit the boat with the musket, it was their sighting mechanism, right? Then they'd light the cannons, and boom, they're off to the races. And they're actually making contact because cannonballs are big, heavy, and expensive. You can only carry so many on a ship, so you don't have many to waste. Same with your agency. Your agency can test small ways to market and reach out and do lead gen in little samples. And then once you start hitting, you can drop the big bucks. You can start actually firing the real cannonballs and making a huge difference. I look for 3 hits before we invest. Every time I look for 3 hits. I want to know that we can make the deal, make the close, make the sale, whatever, 3 times in a row. And then I see a pattern. Once is an anomaly. 2, maybe got lucky. 3, I got a pattern that's showing up. And once I get to 3, we start clicking. So that's how we decide where we're going to go, how we sparse that out. Our lead gen is very, very in 2 different paths, 2 different very, very strong directions. We're very relational. I like relational selling and relational marketing. I don't like flashy stuff that's in my face and making me pull my hair out. It's interesting to watch and sometimes funny on Facebook to watch or Google or whatever, but it's not me. It's not my personality. If it's your personality, awesome. Go for it. If you're comfortable, that's fine. It's not mine. So I'm a relational seller. I'm a relational marketer. My team is all wired that way. So we do a lot of referral-based marketing. We ask for referrals. We have a very strong process about that. That's the referral side of that. We talked about that a minute ago. We do a lot of relational social media marketing. So we're actually really interacting with real people on LinkedIn or on Facebook or in other groups, other venues that are online, other groups that you can actually have conversations and meet people that are on market for us. We also do email marketing, and we do some phone stuff where we really get into the relational aspects of the person we're trying to work with. That takes a little bit of time. Our products and our services are priced in a way that we have the time built into that to make sure that happens because we understand profit margins. You can too. We can talk about that another day. If you have questions, let me know. But the real deal is to make sure it's relationally based. No BS, no smoke and mirrors, no standing in front of fancy flashy stuff, no showing off. We're really low key. We don't talk a lot about our lifestyles. We don't talk a lot about what we do in our off hours. We're here to get a job done. We're here to deliver a real product, a real service, and get that client real results. That's how we approach things, and that's been very, very beneficial and profitable for us and for our clients because it's just straight down the middle, straight up. That being said, that's a very logical approach. Again, there is an emotional aspect to selling and closing those leads, and that's when you have to step away from that logic once it's delivered and it's in place and build onto that, not step away from it, let's say build onto it, the real reasons that people make decisions, which are really more about how they're feeling and what's going on in their life and the things they want changed and the things they want to see differently. I know, and you know, that funnels work, Facebook ads work, Google ads work, referrals work, videos on YouTube work. There's affiliates work, being sponsored or being involved on podcast shows, all of that stuff works. It comes down to it though, which is working for you and your market, the way you work in your market, the way your market works with you, what's connecting, what's real, what's authentic. That's the one you go after. And that's where we use that bullets versus cannonballs thing to make sure that's happening. Okay. I hope that answers that question. Good question. All right. I think I have one more here. If you have one, go ahead and lock it in here while you're watching. If there's anything to clarify, let me know. And I surely will. All right. scroll down and find this one here. Great. Okay. Emma says, just read this one through. Okay, so Emma, basically, I'm going to summarize this one real quick. I think I got the point here, Emma. So great, you're great on video. You're great on YouTube, Instagram, like you're comfortable in front of your camera. Obviously, you're very comfortable in front of your camera, but you struggle with copy and you struggle with getting people to actually convert through your system. So people love you on YouTube, they love you on Instagram, they love you on Facebook videos, but they're not loving that enough to actually go through the funnel process and actually become a converting paying client. That's not unusual. And honestly, Emma, I think the best thing for you to do without diving deep and seeing your brand right now is to reach out and well, we could have a call if you want to do that, but to reach out to me or anybody else who can look at your brand and understand what you're doing a little more, because you're probably really, really close. A lot of us as creatives we're really close to connecting to our market, but we can't see the disconnect and we can't see what's between us. We know what to do. We know how to build a funnel. We know how to do the videos. We know how to connect. We know how to deliver the message that we're passionate about, but actually getting the client or the prospect to jump that little hurdle that they've got, it's just something in our way. Usually what's in our way is something we don't even realize. We're so good at what we do. We're so good at getting the results we get because it's often worked for us that we don't realize that there's a hurdle that someone else is experiencing because they're not wired the same way we are. They don't think the way we thought. They don't have the experiences like we've had. So we don't realize that that hurdle is their hurdle. And it takes somebody from the outside looking in to say, okay, that's where you need to jump. You need to move over that real quick. And here's what it is. Let's define it and call it what it is. I hope that helps. That's usually the case. That's usually what pops up. Okay, that is all the questions I had in the queue. What's up, April? Good to see you. It's really good to see you. That's all I have in the queue. If there's anybody else who has a question or a clarification on any of this open Q&A stuff we've got on creating growth in your agency, building the systems in your agency, getting the staff in place, just really quickly scaling and moving past your stuck points. If you've been stuck somewhere for months or for years, don't be stuck. There's so much great information out there to move past. So any other questions, just real quick? If not, I'm going to wrap this up and say y'all are awesome, because you are. I truly mean this. Being in this group, my agency runs almost on its own now. I say that I work 2 hours a day. I honestly work about 30 minutes a day in my agency. And this Facebook group that we're all hanging out right now has been so much fun. I have the time and the space to hang out and to play and to grow together, and I absolutely love it. Thanks for all tuning in. Great to see you all, and I will see you all again next week. We'll do another live, and you bet, Robert. Great to see you. We'll do another live next week if we'll pick a topic, or we'll just do an open Q&A and get people unstuck. All right, see y'all. Bye.